Empress Valeth XYR, sovereign of the Aurelian Concord, sat upon her living throne of crystalline light, her mantle of authority shimmering with the bioluminescent patterns of her species. For over 3 centuries, her empire had expanded across star systems, absorbing lesser polities through diplomacy or annihilation. Humanity, however, had proven persistent, too stubborn to conquer, too adaptable to ignore. So Valeth had agreed to talks. The humans entered not with armies, but with a family. That alone unsettled her. At their head walked Ambassador Elias Monroe, a graying man with tired eyes and a spine that remained straight despite the crushing gravity fields of the throne chamber. On either side of him walked 2 youths, clearly human, yet subtly altered. Their eyes reflected light strangely, carrying a faint iridescence no baseline human possessed. They moved with a quiet confidence that drew whispers from Valeth's advisors. Empress Valeth XYR, Monroe said, bowing in the human fashion. I come on behalf of Earth and the unified human colonies. I request asylum and recognition. The chamber rippled with shock. Asylum. Valeth echoed, her voice resonating through psychic harmonics. You dare request sanctuary within my empire, while your species defies my borders. Monroe met her gaze. I do. Not for myself. For them. He placed a gentle hand on each child's shoulder. Valeth focused her senses on the youths and froze. Their psychic signatures were not human. They were Aurelian. Not merely similar. Identical to her royal bloodline. That is impossible, she hissed, rising from her throne. My kind cannot reproduce with humans. Monroe finished quietly. We thought so too. The memory struck her like a solar flare. A century ago, during the early border wars, Valeth had captured a human scientist, Dr. Leora Kane. Brilliant, defiant, infuriatingly compassionate. Valeth had interrogated her for months, probing her mind, seeking humanity's secrets. Somewhere along the way, hatred had softened into curiosity. Curiosity into something far more dangerous. Attachment. Aurelian biology was complex, self-regulating, and adaptive. It had been engineered by ancient precursors to survive extinction-level threats. What Valeth had not known, what no Aurelian had known, was that under specific emotional and psychic resonance, compatibility could emerge. Leora Kane had vanished after a laboratory breach. Valeth had assumed her dead. She had been wrong. Where is she? Valeth demanded, her composure fracturing. Monroe's expression darkened. She lived. She escaped. And she carried your child. The chamber fell silent. Valeth's advisors recoiled in disbelief. An empress bearing offspring with a human was unthinkable, treasonous. Yet the truth blazed unmistakably in her senses. And these, Valeth whispered, staring at the children, are descendants. Yes, Monroe said. Twins. 2nd generation. Their mother, your daughter, died last year during a pirate raid. She asked me to bring them to you. The children looked up then. The girl spoke first. My name is Aaron, she said softly. This is my brother, Kalen. Our mother told us stories about you. About the stars. About an empress who ruled half the galaxy, but never knew she had a family. Valeth's knees weakened. For the first time in centuries, fear was not what she felt. It was shame. The middle cycles of the negotiations shattered centuries of Aurelian doctrine. Priests argued that the children were abominations. Generals insisted they be erased to preserve imperial purity. Valeth listened in silence, her gaze never leaving her grandchildren as they sat beside the human delegation, unafraid. Humanity, she realized, had done what no enemy ever had. They had endured. Not through force, but through love, memory, and legacy. "Leave us," Valeth finally commanded. When the chamber emptied, she descended from her throne and knelt before the twins, a gesture that would echo across the Empire for generations. "I was wrong," she said, her voice no longer amplified, no longer imperial. "I believed strength was dominance, that survival meant control." Kaelin frowned. "Our mother said strength is protecting what matters." Valeth laughed, a broken, trembling sound. "Your mother was wiser than any empress." The final act came days later, broadcast across the Concord. Valeth stood before the galaxy and made her declaration. "By my authority, I recognize humanity as a sovereign allied species. Not subjects, not enemies, family." The outcry was immediate. Systems threatened secession. Admirals resigned. Assassination attempts followed. Valeth endured them all. She abdicated absolute rule, transforming the Empire into a concord of shared governance. The twins were placed under protection, educated in both human empathy and Aurelian discipline. They became symbols, not of weakness, but of unity. Years later, as Valeth watched Aaron and Kaelin address the Galactic Assembly, human warmth in their smiles, Aurelian light in their eyes, she finally understood. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been their technology or their fleets. It was their ability to love across boundaries, to build families where none should exist. And in doing so, they had changed the fate of an empire. The Empress had once ruled the stars alone. Now, she ruled them as a grandmother, and the galaxy was stronger for it. As the chamber erupted in applause, Valeth felt something she had never allowed herself before: peace. The empire she had forged through fear would outlive her not through conquest, but through connection. When the twins turned back and smiled at her, the Empress of 1,000 worlds finally understood humanity's true power. They didn't just survive the galaxy. They inherited it,